Death. I want to talk to you today about death. Um, and yeah, it's a morbid subject, of course. Uh, but it's something that I find for myself, I personally don't care much about until it's been presented to me in a direct, almost aggressive way. And why am I talking about this today? Well, the reason why I'm talking about it is simply because within about a 6 hour period today, I've gotten three different calls about this very subject. People on their last minutes, something has happened where quickly their circumstances changed. And all of this for me is kind of coming to a precipice. And what I mean by that is that for some reason for me, the months through December through the end of February have always been difficult. They've always been filled with periods of reflection, uh, usually stress, you know what I mean? Trying to figure out how the heck you're going to make it through the next few months. And days like today really kind of change gears on that for me because myself, due to choices I've made in my life and where I come from, how I was raised, how I chose to deal with things, excuse me, has cost me a lot of time. And that's the most valuable thing I believe one can have. Okay. Um, while I sit here on the beach talking about something like death, you know, it can be pretty easily dismissed as, yeah, that kind of happens. This stuff happens. And yes, it does happen. But what I want to talk about more importantly today is maybe the decisions we make and how severe we hold them until something hits you that is frankly unshakable. Better, I guess, would be that it shatters you. I mean, to get one call is one thing. Two, all right. But three, I see you. All right. Okay. And then I'm going to take my experience over the past 4 weeks and I can see how this has come to a head, but that's not what's bothering me at all, actually. What's bothering me is that I took some advice. And I mean, you take advice as one takes advice. And I took some advice um, about 15 years ago. All right. Now, I did not put that advice into play until probably about 2 years ago. Now, that advice was that I needed to remove people from my life. I needed to um, protect myself, whole bunch of stuff, therapy talk, right? And that's good. Um, Worked out great for almost 2 years. And then a day like today hits. And these just aren't regular people. Not that anybody has a different value to their life, in my opinion, but they're people that were very influential in my life. And due to that advice that took me a long time to enact, I enacted it. And I cut these people out of my life entirely. And I thought I was good with it. I don't know if I am. I don't know if I am. And I wonder if this was a perception issue on my end, but I know that it wasn't. I could sit here and tell you about the backgrounds of each one of these individuals and They will vastly vary from one to the next. I could say one did it to themselves, which was a category I was in a long time myself. I could say for the other one, way too soon. Why? And the other one, I'm still trying to figure out. And I want to be really clear about one thing is that death is not what scares me. Never has. Turns out what scares me is making such a finalized decision. And then there's a timer put on it. And sometimes you don't make it in time. So, what I think is if you're fortunate enough to have anything, anything in your life, anyone, make sure you tell them how much you care about them. If they're not doing things right, you make sure that you tell them they're not doing things right. And I'm going to tell you, they're probably not going to want to hear it. They're not going to want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear when they're not doing things right. But what I know is if you don't say something, who will? You can get mad at me all you want, all you want. Because again, death don't scare me. What scares me is not saying what has to be said, what should be said, what's hard to say most of the time, which is why this affects a person the way it does. So think about that when you get a minute, okay? Because when things are going smooth, you get it in your head that they'll always be smooth. And for some people, there'll be smoother roads than there will be for others. That's just the way it goes. And when this is over, you get to ask some questions as far as I know. So that part don't worry me at all. But what worries me is making such a severe decision and what the possible effect of making that decision had on the situation as a whole. Now I know. Shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? Shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Yeah, there's that. There is that. Do you know what else there is? There's trying just a little bit harder. There's saying what needs to be said. There's smiling when you don't feel like smiling because that can help someone else. So, in that spirit, here on the beach, that's the dig. I'm Shine. Keep on shining. We out.